Hi, I'm Ashley with National Camera Exchange, and today we're going to put together a panoramic photo. A couple different ways we can do this. One, take all the individual pictures manually and actually put them into Photoshop, stitch them all together. So we'll do that. The second way is going to be using an in-camera panoramic mode, just like what's in the Sony a7 here. So we're going to put both those together, we'll look at both of them, you guys can choose which you like best. So let's start. Alright, so first we're going to use Sony's in-camera capability to build a panoramic. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just switch my mode over to panoramic stitch. From there I have to set what angle I want to go, whether it's up, down, left, right. And on here I'm actually going to set it to do pointing downward. Reason is I'm actually going to shoot vertically when I shoot this. That way I'm getting more information, I'm getting a bigger frame. Where if I shoot horizontally, it's less image there and it's a much longer image. It's not really as impressive. So we're going to shoot it vertically. From there, I pretty much just point and shoot. It's already set to go. So that simple. All right, so if I'm going to shoot this manually, I'm actually going to set my camera all the way to manual, and I want to find my exposure. But I want to find my exposure for what's going to be the middle of my image. I don't want to expose for the left or the right, but what's dead in the middle. The rest of it will then balance out in Lightroom. The second thing, just like when I shot my panoramic with the Sony mode, I want to shoot it vertically. So that's the other thing I'm going to do. I'm also going to set my manual focus. That way I don't have my camera refocusing on every single frame. It's set for what's in the middle. That way everything's focused out for that. So let's do that real quick. Set my camera to manual. Find my exposure here real quick. All right, and now I'm going to start on the left and work my way right after I've found my exposure. The key thing to note when I'm taking these pictures, I'm leaving at least 20% of the image as overlap, because Adobe needs that to be able to stitch these together in the end. So let's stitch those together and take a look at them. All right, so now we're back at the house, have all of our images into the computer, into Lightroom. Let's go ahead and take those initial shots we took earlier today and build those into our panoramic. Okay, so what we're looking at in Lightroom right now is the panoramic that the Sony camera shot itself, and then my 5 individual images that I'm going to turn into a panoramic. So I'm going to select all 5 of those, and if I right click, go to Edit In, and merge to Panorama in Photoshop. And then in Photoshop, this little screen will pop up. Don't really have to do anything here, we're just going to hit OK. Then we'll wait a moment here while this starts to load all the images and merges them together for us. And it's going to take like a million years because that's just how Adobe do. Alright, so it's just finishing up the process here and kind of stacking it all together. And it actually did a really good job of putting these together. It's nice and seamless in between. And if you look over here in your layers bar, it shows you what little pieces it's using from each image. The problem that we kind of run into now though is that you've got this big gap on the top and the bottom and along the sides. So we can either crop it, which is one alternative. It's not the wrong idea or the wrong choice, but it's just one alternative. The other alternative is what I'm going to do, where we're going to use content-aware fill, and we're going to actually have Photoshop fill in all those sides for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into our layer and I'm just going to flatten that image. I'm going to actually take my little tool right here, a little smart selection tool. I'm just going to drag this across and pick up all these little side spaces that didn't make it into the photo, so to speak. Slowly but surely we'll get it all here. And then once I have all of this selected, we're going to adjust that selection as well to give us a little bit of gap. And as you can see, I'm somewhat getting out of control on the sides here and getting part of my picture. And if that happens when you do this, if you're on a Mac, you're going to hold the Alt key or Option key, and if you're on a PC, you'll hold the Alt key. And that just takes it into a minus sign, and it'll allow you to erase that from your selection. So I'm just going to do that like so. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the Refine Edge, and we want to bring that radius up, just so that there's a little bit of overlap. So we'll say right about 3 pixels, give or take. And we'll hit OK. And it's going to go through and refine that whole selection edge. So now that we've done that, we're going to go up to Edit. We're going to go down to Fill. And then it's going to ask Contents. We're going to select Content Aware and hit OK. Now Photoshop's going to take a minute here. It's going to look at everything we selected, and then it's going to look at everything that's around it and fill in those blank spaces that we have with the actual image. We'll take a look and see what it does. Always the waiting game, you know? All right, so after Photoshop has taken a peek at it, and I can still see a little couple spots that I actually missed, which isn't a big deal. We can actually go through and fill that. But if we see all the spots that I didn't miss, it did a very good job at just looking at what's around it and filling in my image, almost magical in a sense. So let's go ahead and make up for my little misses here. All right, so after picking up and cleaning up the spots where I missed, it looks pretty darn fantastic. So now what we're going to do is we just have to save that. So we'll close this, hit save, and then I can finish doing my little touch-ups in Lightroom. All right, so now that we have these in Lightroom, let's take a look at both images side by side. The first one here that we have on the screen is the one that I just put together with all of them, and I'm going to select the Sony one. And then we'll do a little comparative here so that we can take a look at them and see all the details. So first thing that we notice right away, the Sony shot one is on the right here. The stitched one is on the left. First thing I noticed, the Sony one's quite a bit wider of a shot. And this is with no editing done to them, so no cheating. But as we look at them as well, the overall scale from the stitched photos is greater, but the sharpness and detail that's in that Sony stitched image is pretty remarkable. On the stitched images that I put together, I could make that up in editing by adding sharpness and things like that. But honestly, for just as simple as it was to shoot with that Sony camera, that image came out pretty spectacular. So hopefully you found this tutorial helpful. I'd like to give a big thanks to our sponsor Sony for making this whole project possible. Like always, subscribe for more tutorials like this, and also let us know which image you liked better with the comments below. Thanks.